and he came back, but he didn't do any struggle in Bombay. He had no if people say how were your struggle days in Bombay, how did you do this and that. He openly told that he didn't do any struggle.
No, he bought a house there and then he went there. He never had to struggle. He bought a house in Andheri. His house is still there. So he was already a big star. It's like if a big Bengal singer from Bengal goes to Bombay to try and sing for Hindi cinema, singing Hindi cinema, they won't struggle, right? Same was with Zubeen. He was the biggest, hugely popular singer who was earning in crores even in those days. Singing, giving live performances throughout the year, and all that. But then he went to Bombay, and he was never a struggler there. He went there on his own terms. He came back on his own terms. So it was never like he wanted to prove a point or getting established. He didn't like it. He came back. If he had stayed there, maybe he would have become a very popular singer in the cinema over the years. But once you Hindi film industry is very good place in terms of that. If you are not visible in front of them, they don't remember you much. So only those few music directors like Pritam or Rajesh Roshan would seek him out. But others would be Zubeen nahi hai to aur koi hai. Especially with all the talent hunt shows these days, you have so many new good singers coming up. So they will find a replacement.
I guess we have come to the end of the session.
I had one question related to something we discussed earlier. I'm a climate enthusiast more on the environment and community level, and we all know how Zubeen was connected to the people of Assam or the nature. So how we as youths of Assam take up his legacy and work more effectively in this segment for our state, more on the climate and community part of Assam.
Whatever he did, that should inspire people. And if you used to plant trees, you would take out bicycle rallies. Like I said, he had planted a lot of trees in his Kalkuli home, and he would always talk about loving nature and protecting nature. And when trees were cut near Digolipur, he was the first one to go there and protest. Well, these are many examples which one can keep highlighting and work on them. And I think always, remember the good legacy of a creative person in different fields and how he contributed, and take inspiration and work on it. It's not that only we listen to his songs and then forget, Sorry?
More on the academic level.
Academic level, I think it will start. You are an academic, you are sitting in JNU, so people like you have to decide how to take it forward. So I think it will happen because it's too soon now. It's not yet 1 year, so it will happen. Like now there have been so many PhDs on Bhupen Hazarika's works, right? At one point in time there was no one. The first one to do PhD on Bhupen Hazarika was I think Dr. Patwari, or if I'm not mistaken. He is a professor in Lakhimpur College. So he was the first person to do PhD on Bhupen Hazarika's works. But now there are many. So it will also happen in the case of Zubeen Garg. I think serious evaluation of any creative person is very much necessary. We often what happens, especially in a place like Assam, is that we only always leave things at the surface. So what we will do is that Bhupen Hazarika's birth centenary is happening. Is there any serious study of Bhupen Hazarika's legacy during this 1 year? It's only about celebrating and Bhupen Rahongit Pratiyogita and some seminars, panel discussions, that's about it. And somebody who has passed away in 2011, there should have been in 15 years, there should have been serious evaluation of, especially in this centenary year. So I hope that things improve and people like you who are still doing your studies or people who are your contemporaries, they will do serious stuff and also find out, like you said, is Zubeen's focus towards environmental causes. That itself somebody might study. I still have not come across any serious study on Bhupen Hazarika's relationship with Brahmaputra. Whereas maybe he has, out of the around 350-400 songs which he wrote, maybe half of them will be related to the Brahmaputra. Maybe love songs, protest songs, songs related to the seasons. Brahmaputra is all there. So that's, as a society, we have to actually react to these things academically also. It's not only about listening and celebrating and
I just want to add one point there. Because I think that's a very good sort of last question.
So, I'm sorry,
Yes,
one minute. Or you complete and I will add to it.
Okay, sure.
Whatever.
Okay. So I think that's a very important point, and I totally second what Paula said, but I really want to emphasize on this point, and which I said in the beginning also when Paula very rightly said. Right now we are in a phase of grief, right? We are grieving. We'll probably be grieving for a longer time. Obviously, there's no time limit to when we're grieving. As a society, as different members of the society, we grieve. But after that is when the more responsible work will come, right? And that's why I have been reading the literature that's coming about Zubeen right now, and a lot of things that are being told about Zubeen right now, etc. Much of it is coming from a space of grief and affection. It's not evaluation always. It's not proper evaluation, right? So, for example, like I said, like we discussed, what kind of a director was he actually was, or what kind of a lyricist he actually was, etc., etc. These minor things. And the relationship. For example, recently, because of Bhupen Hazarika's centenary, I was actually looking at Bhupen Hazarika, like you said, about Brahmaputra people are looking at it. I was looking for Bhupen Hazarika's songs about grief. And there are at least 5 songs, for example, where he is talking about grief, right? Like Tumhara Naam Potra Lekha, etc., where he is grieving. So Bhupen Hazarika and grief, for example, and I don't really know if somebody has solidly thought about Bhupen Hazarika and A, B, C, Brahmaputra being one topic, grief being one topic, etc., etc. Deeply political songs. So yes, responding to your question, I think what will really be important is to sustain the interest academically, journalistically, etc., etc. And it's a very difficult thing to do, as we know. Recently, I was at Zubeen in Montego, and I was speaking to all vendors there. And this is what all the vendors told me this, that they will soon be relocating to where they will do their businesses. Because the number of people who are visiting Zubeen is really decreasing, is shrinking. And this, I wanted to do this, I wanted to speak sort of journalistically to them. So I literally made it a point. I visited this time only to do that. And I genuinely wanted to see people's interest and also how much the actual establishment is coming up, how much work is gone into it, etc. So I did manage to speak to some people from the committee, etc., which is formed by people locally, the local villagers, the local people, and they're doing it very well, of course. But I was also speaking to all the vendors there, people who are selling ice cream, people who are selling puska, etc. And they are all moving back. So somebody used to do it in Fancy Bazaar, they're moving back in Fancy Bazaar, etc., etc. So that interest is decreasing, and we know that it is decreasing. I'm not faulting anybody here. So people bus भर के लोग जाते थे, अब नहीं जाएंगे बस भर के, अगले साल नहीं जाएंगे. You won't see buses going to visit Zubeen, right? Because it doesn't operate like how a Kamakhya Mandir does, where people will always go in buses, right? So that will, as academicians, as people who think about these things, we know that will decrease. Some people will go, but this will be few people who will go on an everyday basis. There won't be the businesses that you see around that structure will probably no longer be there. But what will need to be there, therefore, is really looking at his song, really looking at the lyric. And it's not that all lyrics he wrote, but basically the songs that he was singing, who was writing for him. For example, some of his songs, like, for example, how did Dizen Sharma write for him? All the way to how did Rahul Gautam Sharma write for him? I think some of the lyrics are really interesting that Rahul Gautam Sharma was writing for him as well. And a lot of lyrics that Zubeen himself had written all his life were extremely interesting, and they need better evaluation. They need more discussions. So I think it will be very important that this interest is sustained by groups like these and individuals like all of you in the longer term, that we should still be thinking about what Bhupendra Hazarika was writing, saying, filming, and similarly for Zubeen as well, and that's the more difficult part, right? And that is something that has to be really done.
Yeah, my question.